We are Southeastern 16. Chase Robinson here. I got Tye Richardson joining me as, hey, we're going to talk some Arkansas football today. I know a lot going on out in Arkansas, but hey, always ready to talk some Hogs football. Tye?
Absolutely. Chase, good to be on with you, man. It's crazy that Arkansas basketball season is in and now people are starting to shift their focus towards football. Spring practice, I say it re-began because you had spring break, and then they go off and, get drunk, do things they shouldn't, and then they come back like we used to and trying to get back in the swing of things. I remember those days. They talked about a hangover that Monday, and they had to run and do other stuff during the course of this week.
So to you, what as we're in spring practice, what are some of the biggest storylines you feel like surrounding Arkansas football, not only in the spring but heading into 2025?
Well, they retooled the offensive line as best they could. Carmona Jr. stayed, which I think was a big returning piece for them. You lose Andrew Armstrong, you lose Isaac Tesla, you lose Isaiah Satania. So a lot of pass catchers are gone, either graduation, NFL, or transfer. So it's the wide receiver. Arkansas's apparently offered a lot of guys still wide receiver-wise, Chase. I don't know if they're short up at that position just because of how much they lost. And Taylor's got to figure out chemistry and getting in gear and getting into the same mold with his guys as he had to last year into his first season. But he's under year 2 at Bobby Petrino, so always fascinating to watch how the quarterback turns out. Taylen Green definitely is a conversation this offseason.
Yeah, for someone like you who's in radio, you talk about this team every day. You hear from the fans. What was kind of the overall impressions from you, from those around, on Taylen Green year one?
Well, there are highs and lows. You go back again, watch that Tennessee game. He played pretty good. There was a goal line pass that he missed because he was under pressure. I think he underthrew it, but he had some great passes in that game. Then he got cheap shotted and couldn't continue. That, in my opinion, was his best SEC game against a really good opponent. But if you look at what he was against the creme de la creme, that is the Southeastern Conference, the top half, he wasn't that great. Albeit Arkansas had one of the toughest schedules in college football, but in most SEC games, he did not stand out. He, in some cases, did just enough for them to win. In others, he wasn't good enough for them to get over the hump. So my question to Taylen Green is, can you be a top 6 quarterback in this league? You're one of the few returners. I mean, my goodness gracious, you talk about some turnover in this league at the quarterback position with guys transferring out, graduating NFL or whatever. I mean, quarterback is wide open in the Southeastern Conference. So that's something I think a lot of Arkansas fans have questions, Chase, in regards to what this team looks like this fall.
How big is it? Do you feel like Bobby Petrino is back to lead the offense, especially with Taylen Green coming back for another year?
Well, consider there were rumors floating around the offseason that he was potentially going to take a head coaching job at a much smaller school. I'd say they're big. I think that Taylen's happy to have him back. I think that Arkansas fans, for the most part, are happy to have him back. I mean, this is a situation most teams don't have a lot of success in year one of an offensive coordinator unless it's just a university like Ohio State that, despite who they reload with, they're good every year. That's not Arkansas. So continuity is key, and they're at least getting some. And really, for the most part, they had one staff member change. The whole staff's back off a 7-6 football team. That's not what Arkansas fans want, but at least if you're looking for positives, Chase, that is one.
Yeah, absolutely. And when it comes to kind of looking back at 24 to head into the spring, then headed to 25, obviously had to get to a bowl game. They did. They won that. Sam Pittman's back. Because I remember we were talking preseason last year. I asked you, what's it going to take for Sam Pittman to stay at Arkansas? And you said bowl game. That would be a big part of that. Do you feel like that's kind of the same? Do you feel like they're the kind of Sam Pittman at Arkansas and all the buzz around it has calmed down? How do you feel like that is this spring?
Well, it's the SEC, Chase, so it's subsided for now. But, if he goes 4-8, there's going to be a lot of people calling for his job. He said, his own words, that the bowl game is the minimum. And I'm paraphrasing a little bit of what he said at SEC Media Days, but that's what Arkansas fans expect from the least. Now, if you look at 16 teams in this league, they can't all finish with winning records. It's unless every one of them went like 6-6. But that's not going to happen in the Southeastern Conference. There will be a lot of back and forths as we saw in year one with the additions of Oklahoma and Texas. But I mean, you look at that schedule, Chase, you got to go to Baton Rouge, you got to go to Oxford, you got to go to Memphis for a non-conference game. You got to play Notre Dame, the defending national runner-up, at home. You got to go to Knoxville, and you got to go to Austin. I mean, like, is that 6 losses right there? Like, it's like Jamie Christmas, man. Give this guy a tougher schedule. I think Florida might. I can't remember who Bill Connolly of ESPN ranked as the toughest schedule in college football, but Arkansas, I think, was 3 or 4. Maybe it was Oklahoma. Might have been Oklahoma, but yeah, it's just how it is in the Southeastern Conference, man.
Defensively, what will the Hogs look like in 2025 based off what's going on this spring?
So you got 2 key pieces back. Cameron Ball, big defensive tackle, Georgia kid, funniest guy on the team. If you're around him, Chase, you'd love him. Everyone loves him. He's great. Then you look at Xavier Sori, who comes back for another season. He transferred in from Georgia, was their best linebacker. So those are the 2 key pieces. You got new secondary players. You got to replace Landon Jackson. You lost Brad Spence to Texas, who was one of the better linebackers on this team. And that one hurts. Like, when you lose a kid to the Texas Longhorns, it's just like, oh. In addition, you lost Luke Haz, Jalen Braxton, and I'm blanking on the other kid that transferred to Ole Miss. There was a chance. People were thinking that Arkansas's Braylon Russell, running back, big kid from Arkansas, was going to transfer. Luckily, didn't. I'm blanking on who the third and final kid on that team is that went to Ole Miss. But either way, defense is a big question mark, particularly on the defensive line. We got a chance to hear from a guy, Ian Jaffard, earlier this week. Big old kid, like 380, like Terrence Cody guy. But that is an area, Chase, where you're just kind of like, I'm kind of withholding judgment until I actually see what they do in SEC opponent. Because they look, I mean, every team looks good in spring, but it's like we're multiple months away from seeing this team actually play a real game inside an SEC football stadium.
Arkansas doing a spring game? I know that's been a lot of talk. Yeah, a lot of talk with the spring games this spring. Is Arkansas doing like a normal spring game?
Chase, they are. They are playing on April the 19th, 2 weeks from Saturday. It's gonna have like some Hogtown stuff outside, like the typical festivities. You got food trucks and bands, and I think there's a car show of some sort. And then on the field, I don't know if it's gonna be kind of hokey pokey. People are going away from the traditional 4-quarter spring games. They're kind of throwing some whamma jammas, like some just weird stuff in there. Because I think coaches, like, I know Sam Pittman and company are doing this, but you got to be petrified that Lane Kiffin, Kirby Smart, like Mike Elko, they're watching this tape and they're like, I like this kid. Hey, agent so-and-so, get this kid on the phone. Let's make it. And I just pulled out 3 coaches out of a hat, but you know that's happening. And whether there's a bag man or not, so that's in the back of every coach's mind. So, but Arkansas is doing it. So hopefully, knock on wood, Chase, they don't lose anybody that's worth anything.
Yeah, and I want to go back to receivers for just a second. Kind of how important is the spring as far as figuring out receivers, figuring out these offensive pieces around Taylen Green for this spring and going into 25?
No, it's huge, man. I mean, you think about Arkansas has had the ability to run the football at times, but every once in a while you get stoned up front and you got to be able to throw it. They had an alpha last year at Andrew Armstrong Chase. I'm going to miss that kid. I mean, he had over 1,000 yards and he was the only top dog on that team. And everyone knew he was getting the football, and yet he carved up defensive zone, man-to-man, bracket coverage. I mean, he ripped him up. And if he was on a better team, he would be more recognized in the SEC. But Trey Harris being on Ole Miss and Ryan Williams being on Alabama, it's kind of hard to not say that those were the best 2 wide receivers in the SEC. That being said, speed is something that Bobby Petrino has always liked. He's got some of that. But you got to have a guy that can just beat one-on-one coverage, like not just a bunch of slots. So how they got a bunch of guys from different places. Stanford, I think USF. There's various other schools that Arkansas was able to pluck some guys away from. Now it just matters like, hey, bro, can you play SEC football? it's not just going to be about what they do in spring, but when the season approaches fast coming up here in August, and then of course in September, October, and beyond.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing the Hogs coming up in 2025. Tye Richardson covers the team there with Hit That Line, Arkansas. Tye, appreciate your time as always, and we'll talk some Arkansas football again with you soon.
Chase, I'm excited, man. I can't wait for the season. Baseball is well underway. Arkansas's got a salty team, so we'll stay on that until whenever college baseball concludes, and then we see what the Hogs do this fall.
Good stuff there. Tye Richardson joining us. We appreciate you for watching. We are Southeastern 16 as we have you covered with SEC football, basketball, baseball year-round. Subscribe if you have not already, and we'll talk to you again soon here on Southeastern 16.